Good afternoon. I'm Felicia Rodriguez along with Jade Jarvis. We are coming on the air because President Joe Biden is in our area.
He's leaving the Pelican Club in Jupiter where he attended a fundraiser this afternoon. Suji Nam is there in Jupiter. Suji, what are you seeing right now?
Biden left a couple of minutes ago. If you see to my left here, traffic is now flowing through. These roads had been blocked for roughly about an hour and a half or so while the president was here at his campaign fundraising event here at the Pelican Club. But you can still see law enforcement officials here. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's was out here, state troopers, Jupiter Police, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, and also, of course, Secret Service here to make sure everybody is safe. But now the president is on his way to Palm Beach International Airport to head down to Miami. But overall, it has been a pretty smooth day so far with everybody here safe and no major reports that we have heard of. So for now, we're going to send it back to you guys.
All right, Suji, thank you. And our traffic anchor, Yasmin Julmis, is here as well. Yasmin, what areas should drivers avoid right now as President Biden makes his way to the airport?
Well, I'll show you, Jade. Zooming in here for where we just saw our reporter Suji Nam near the Pelican Club off of A1A. You can already see tons of congestion along Indiantown Road, heading both east and westbound in the area and in the area of Military Trail and US 1 as well. Zooming out here because we are going to see the president get on I-95 and head southbound. That will cause a closure. That closure is already underway. That also means if you are attempting to get on I-95 southbound anywhere between Indiantown Road and the airport Belvedere Road, those on-ramps are closed. This closure will last until he arrives at the airport, as this is a rolling motorcade, meaning that it should clear up after he arrives, and then you will be able to get back on I-95 into that area. Back to you.
All right, and I can tell you, Yasmin, coming into work just a little while ago, there were so many of I-95 ramps that were being blocked by FHP troopers, not allowing cars on and off. So I know people are wondering what is happening. Well, the president is in town. That is what's happening. Our Terry Parker is near the airport. She's live along Southern Boulevard. And I know, Terry, earlier we saw there were a lot of Trump supporters out there, but you look quite lonely right now.
Oh, is that what's going on, Felicia? The president's in town? You're right. Right now, Southern Boulevard, which is where the motorcade is going to be coming just in a minute to go west, right over there to PBIA. It's closed down right now. I just saw a van go by and the police officers jumped in front of it and real quick hustled them off to a side road. So Southern Boulevard closed down right now. In a minute, we're going to see that impressive motorcade. There's the motorcycles in front, and then you see the limos with the president and one of them. They all come streaming by, then with the press and the various assistants and the cars trailing. But right now, as you said, there are no protesters. Earlier today, this street was filled with about 50 to 75 Trump supporters. I spoke to many of them as they raised their flags and chanted and said, "Biden, go home." They were telling me that they are here. This is typically where they have gathered to welcome Donald Trump, the former president, as he left PBIA and went right here east to Mar-a-Lago. Today it's Joe Biden. I couldn't find any Biden supporters. I did come over here to the side of the street where the Trump people were not, but everybody hustled back into their cars. So we were unable to talk to anybody who was here just to see the motorcade. But it's always a stirring sight. We saw Air Force One come in over the ocean and then land, going really slow and smooth as it glided to a stop there in the tarmac. And we also know that Donald Trump's jet is there with Trump emblazoned on the fuselage. So that's kind of interesting that both his jet and Air Force One right there side by side, and what's going to be a big contest here. Although, of course, this is a Trump stronghold. So this is a place where Biden is hoping to get some monetary donations and support, but he's got to go up against all of these Trump supporters because, after all, this is Donald Trump's home, at least right here in West Palm Beaches. I'll throw it back to you, Felicia.
All right, Terry, we know President Joe Biden will be heading down to Miami in a little while for another campaign reception. This was video from when the president arrived earlier, just before 1, Jade.
Yeah, he departed Washington, D.C. a little bit later than anticipated, about 30 minutes delayed from his takeoff from Washington, D.C. Got here to PBIA just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. As you can see there, he is greeted by West Palm Beach Mayor Keith James. He's also talking to Palm Beach County Commissioner Maria Sachs. And he spoke with them for quite a while. It took him a while to actually get off the plane and walk down the steps. And then when they greeted him at the bottom there, he spoke with them for quite a while. We're not sure what exactly he spoke with them about because he did skip the press gaggle that was supposed to happen, I assume, because
He was running late.
He was running late, so he had to get to Jupiter. So after he spoke with them, he got right in the motorcade and headed up I-95 to Jupiter to the Pelican Club. He was there for, I want to say, about 2 hours or so.
Yes.
And now, like you said, he is on his way back to PBIA so he can make his way back down to Miami.
And I know you and Stephen Graves were bringing us that live coverage earlier today on WPBF 25. You're looking live right now at Air Force One from our Palm Beach Airport Skycam as we await President Biden's arrival. He will be heading down to MIA, Miami International Airport, where, as we mentioned, he'll be attending another campaign reception in Miami later on this evening.
And this is Biden's first time back in South Florida since the 2022 midterm elections, Felicia. He was actually in Hallandale Beach at that time, stumping, of course, for Val Demings, who was running for Senate against Senator Marco Rubio, and also for Charlie Crist, who was running against Governor Ron DeSantis. Now,
as you can imagine, with the president on I-95, a very busy highway here in South Florida, a lot of exit ramps on and off are being blocked by the Florida Highway Patrol, and people are wondering what is happening. Our traffic anchor, Yasmin Julmus, is here to help you beat the traffic and to answer some of your questions. Yasmin?
Absolutely, Felicia. We knew that this was going to happen. What we first saw earlier today around the 1 o'clock hour was a closure of the northbound lanes between Southern Boulevard and Indiantown Road. Now we're watching the inverse happen as the president is making his way back to Palm Beach International Airport. For perspective, that's about a 20-mile stretch. So a lot of on-ramps and exits are impacted at this time as I-95 southbound is closed. We're talking about PGA Boulevard, Blue Heron, working our way down by Okeechobee Boulevard. A very big impact today as the president is heading back to Palm Beach International Airport to then fly down to Miami International Airport. What is happening in the skies right now? Well, I did reach out to Palm Beach International Airport and the FAA. They did tell me that there is a temporary flight restriction in order that should only last for about 15 minutes when the president re-enters the airport. So that is not impacting any flights going out or coming in. There are no delays. Back to you.
All right, Yasmin. We want to head back to West Palm Beach and Southern Boulevard because we're being told that we believe the president's motorcade is very close to Southern Boulevard, and hopefully we're going to catch a glimpse of it here in West Palm Beach as it's on its way to the airport.
and of course, we know that President Biden is here in South Florida for a campaign reception. Just want to give you some stats about some of the fundraising that's been going on. Presumably, that's why he's here talking to donors and supporters in South Florida. So data shows Biden has raised $97 million just in the fourth quarter of 2023. The Biden campaign, along with the Democratic Party, ended the year with $117 million. And apparently that is the highest a Democratic candidate has had at this point of the election. And Felicia and I were just talking while Yasmin was giving her report. Nikki Haley is also expected to be here in South Florida tomorrow.
Yes, and Nikki Haley is reportedly going to be attending a Republican campaign reception on the island of Palm Beach tomorrow. We also know some aides some staffers will be attending other fundraisers as well for the Republican candidate. We know that Nikki Haley reportedly collected more than $1 million after last week's New Hampshire primary. So certainly picking up momentum there as she is expected to pick up more momentum and meet some of her donors here in South Florida at tomorrow's event. She is also planning to head down to Miami, very similar to what President Joe Biden is doing today. Still no word on whether we're seeing President Biden's motorcade in West Palm Beach. Not yet. It has not. Terry is there with her photographer giving us an update as we look at Air Force One right there on the tarmac at PBIA in West Palm Beach. We also have President Trump's plane in the background. You can see it there. Two presidential planes
Right.
in plain sight.
And What's significant about this is because we have both President Joe Biden coming to South Florida for these campaign events, and of course Nikki Haley as well. And this is really former President Trump's, these are his stomping grounds. This is his hometown. So this is where, like Terry said, he has a stronghold, and it is kind of, it feels a little bit like they're coming onto his turf, and it certainly looks that way with Air Force One there with the Trump private plane in the background.
Well, he is the president of the United States, so he's allowed to land wherever he wants. But Nikki Haley, again, will be here tomorrow, and we will be bringing you live coverage of her arrival as well. Our co-anchor Todd McDermott will be bringing us live coverage tonight, beginning on WPBF 25 News at 4 o'clock. Now, earlier when President Biden was at the Pelican Club, we know he spoke to a packed room inside the Pelican Club. It started just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the president taking the stage. And we know that in his remarks, Biden repeatedly swiped at Donald Trump. We're told on everything from Roe versus Wade, the state of the economy, as well as gun violence.
And then at the end of his remarks, Biden, he projects that they believe, his campaign believes that they can win Florida in 2024. And we are going to go back to Yasmin right now. She has an update on the traffic in the I-95 corridor where President Joe Biden is traveling to get back to the airport. Yasmin.
Well, Jade and Felicia, I-95 southbound is closed. That is between Indiantown Road and the airport. As you are looking in this area, even your local roads are impacted, as is typical with these motorcades who pass through. Right now, I am seeing where we saw our Terry Parker, some eastbound slowdown, speeds as slow as 9 miles per hour. You almost come to a complete stop as you are traveling eastbound approaching Military Trail. So take a look at all of this congestion. This is such a huge impact to the area.
All right, Yasmin, and as you mentioned, because I-95 southbound is closed, all those on-ramps onto I-95 are closed as well. So that's causing quite the backup. You can see emergency vehicles now. We have police starting to cross on Southern Boulevard. This appears to be the beginning of President Joe Biden's motorcade here on Southern Boulevard.
And it seems that he is heading up that way to get back to Palm Beach International Airport. We know that the president has had a stacked schedule today. So as he heads up this way, he will make his way back to Air Force One. We do expect him to make his way down to Miami, where he has another campaign reception. We're not sure where, but he is expected to be there for about 2 hours or 2.5 hours before heading back to Miami International Airport and then making his way back up to Miami. He's supposed to arrive just before 11 p.m. tonight. Again, South Florida, a huge fundraising opportunity for both Democrats and Republicans. So I'm sure this is not going to be the last presidential visit that we see in 2024.
No, and an important place if you are the president and want to stay president, and if you want to be president.
Exactly.
You know, you want to gain support here in South Florida.
And that's why we're seeing Nikki Haley come here tomorrow as well. So Nikki Haley making her way to Palm Beach.
And the New York Times also reporting that Donald Trump's campaign plans to attend events on Palm Beach as well during that same time period, hosted by the GOP donor group, the American Opportunity Alliance. So he will have some staffers at events as well on the island.
And we are starting to see more and more emergency vehicles make their way up Southern Boulevard. And we are just waiting to see that motorcade come through right now. Of course, President Joe Biden on his way to Palm Beach International Airport, heading to Air Force One, then flying to Miami International Airport, where he will have another campaign reception.
And you think this is a big inconvenience to our area. Imagine what it does to Miami. I mean, it's a slow crawl and it puts it to a major stop. I mean, impacting everything down south of us.
And by the time he lands, because say he gets into Air Force One by 3:45 and flies to Miami, you're getting there right at peak rush hour time. So talk about shutting down I-95 and all these surrounding areas. People are getting off work.
Well, in Miami too, you've got so many, besides the side streets, you know, 836 is affected right off of the airport there, a busy thoroughfare. So you've got major gridlock and congestion, like you said, right there during the rush hour. So it's happening a little bit earlier for us so we can deal with it. The kids are getting out of school right now, so
Right.
that may delay some parents, unfortunately. But again, more of the emergency vehicles associated with the president's motorcade. We haven't seen the limousines yet.
But it seems like we just keep seeing more and more
Flashing lights.
emergency vehicles and flashing lights on the motorcycles here. We're just waiting for him to come around the bend. And once he makes it around here, correct me if I'm wrong, this is right by the airport. So he's not
it's
far.
within a few minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he's
it's
not
within
far.
a couple minutes, and then it's very quick. I mean, they basically whisk him up, up the stairs. They park very close to the plane, and they whisk him up the stairs, and they usually take off within a few minutes. So once the press corps usually gets on the, will get on that plane first. And the president, or is getting on the plane as the president's getting on the plane, because they want to make sure everything is done quickly.
Right, and I have to say they are very efficient because, like I was telling you, Felicia, he did leave Washington, D.C. He did land here at Palm Beach International Airport later than expected.
Mm-hmm.
So his visit here to Palm Beach County was initially supposed to only be 2.5 hours. It seems like even though they had that delay, they're sticking to that tight schedule.
Okay.
Well, and I'm sure it's a very quick flight. Here we go. Okay, Terry, tell us, I know you're there right along Southern Boulevard. What do you see?
Okay, here it comes. The phalanx of limousines, the president's motorcade is approaching us live right now. Of course, we do not know which is the beast and which car the president is in, but he's in one of those cars, and a few people here watching along the sidewalk as the president, for the first time since he has taken office, President Biden's Air Force One has landed here at PBIA and now is departing just a few hours after making land in the Air Force One. And you can see that all of the staff, the people that travel along with him, the press, Secret Service, lots and lots of police, and here comes some more motorcycles. It's always a stirring sight when you see all these flashing lights, and you know that this is, the full weight of the United States guarding its top #1 president, who's in office right now and is visiting here in West Palm Beach and Jupiter. And there he goes, off to PBIA, which is right around that bend. It'll take them just a minute to get there, and as Felicia did note, they will whisk him right up to the stairs. And the press will get on. Usually they get on the back entrance.
Right.
And they make it all fairly quick.
Yeah, there you go.
So
See, they're
that's
already
what's happening
turning
here
in.
at Southern.
We're showing, Terry, as you were talking, we're showing now the motorcycle officers already on that tarmac. And, it'll just be in a couple of moments. We'll see the president emerge from his limousine and start making his way onto the plane. But, as you mentioned, it really is, such a stirring sight. And for us, we see this probably more than the general public. We're so used to this image of the president's motorcade. But for those folks who stop there every day and just watch, I mean, it really is an amazing sight.
Yeah, and it's something that if you live outside of the Washington, D.C. area, and you have, the president makes visits all over the country, but not regularly. You don't see him regularly in your community. So to see this, I can see why the parents were out there with their kids. It's a piece of, it's history.
It's history,
It's history.
absolutely. Terry, to be able to say,
guys,
hey,
that's
we
exactly
watched the
what-
president.
Right. Well, there was a mother here actually with her 2 children. The little girl was about 10, the boy was about 14. And she said, that is exactly why I brought them here, to witness history in action. That there's a president in our own backyard. And of course, we experienced that during Donald Trump's presidency, because he literally was in our backyard, right over there in Palm Beach. But now that Mr. Biden is here, it's just another slice, another chapter of history that he is here in our area, and we get to see it firsthand. Usually you have to go to Washington and, queue up outside the Capitol and hope you see the motorcade. And if you get lucky enough to take a tour and see the Oval Office and all of that, and all of that is so impressive. But there's something to see when Air Force One lands and when the motorcade comes by. It instills a sense of pride and everything else patriotic, I guess.
Exactly.
When you see all of this happening.
Absolutely.
And seeing Air Force One, I mean, obviously I was here in the studio, but seeing it on the Skycam when it landed, just seeing how massive it is is huge. You can actually see, if we pull up that shot again of the wide shot of PBIA, you can see Air Force One with Trump's private plane in the background, and just how much bigger Air Force One is, even with you can see some of the commuter jets as well.
It's the most secure plane in the world, right? Well, we're not actually going to be able to see from this vantage point the president getting on the plane, but as we were watching the motorcade arriving at PBIA, we were seeing some of the SUVs pulling in. There you go, and now we're seeing the president's motorcade and the limousines pulling in.
So in just a few minutes, we're going to see him get out of one of those limousines there and head up the stairs. Again, he is heading to Miami International Airport for another campaign reception. And like I said, he is keeping a tight schedule because he was running behind, but it seems like they're back on track right now.
Again, the time is 3:23. If you're just joining us, we are covering President Joe Biden arriving at PBIA after a stop in Jupiter. He was speaking at the Pelican Club to Democratic donors, where he thanked them for their support and talked about how he does believe that the Democrats can win Florida during this presidential election. And I believe this is the car he's in now. They're getting ready to open the door, and we should see the president walk out, and there he is with his dark glasses.
And after President Biden got off the plane to head up to Jupiter, he was greeted by some dignitaries. Mayor Keith James was there. Palm Beach County Commissioner Maria Sachs was there.
And they spoke for quite a lengthy amount of time.
They did. I'm interested to see if we ever get to hear what they spoke about, but they did speak for a while before he got into the limousine and headed up to Jupiter. But now it seems that they're just taking their time here, getting everything secured before, like Felicia said, they will get him right out of that car and up those steps into Air Force One.
It looks like he'll be getting out on the other side, and the stairs are on the other side, obviously, where the plane is. But as you said, the plane will be heading down to Miami. The flight is no more than a 40-minute flight down to MIA. And he'll be heading to another campaign reception there with Democratic donors who are anxiously awaiting the president's arrival, no doubt.
And he's expected to be there in Miami for just under 2 hours. He might stay a little bit longer, like I said, just because he was delayed getting down here to South Florida, but he is expected to be there for 2 hours or just under 2 hours. And if we can take any kind of cues from what he spoke about here in Palm Beach County, he repeatedly taking aim at former President Donald Trump in his remarks at the Pelican Club. He told his attendees, quote, "You are the reason Donald Trump is a defeated president." He repeatedly swiped at Trump on everything from Roe versus Wade, abortion, the abortion issue, to the state of the economy and gun violence. And at the end of his remarks, as Felicia stated, he did project that he believes he and the Democratic Party can win Florida in 2024.
Now, this is going to be a very busy political week because, as we told you, Republican presidential candidate, former Ambassador Nikki Haley, is also going to be in town tomorrow. She will be on the island of Palm Beach, and there is the president getting out of the limo. He's walking over to say hello to some guests and to shake their hands. He's saying hello to law enforcement officers. It looks like members of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office there.
And it looks like members of FHP as well.
Mm-hmm. But as I was saying, Nikki Haley will be here tomorrow. And the New York Times is reporting that campaign managers for both Haley and Donald Trump also plan to attend events on Palm Beach hosted by GOP donor group, the American Opportunity Alliance. So that is all happening tomorrow and Thursday. So we will be bringing you coverage of Nikki Haley's visit tomorrow as well. Our co-anchor Todd McDermott will be covering more on the president's visit, and he will be reporting on Nikki Haley's visit beginning tonight on WPBF 25 News at 4. But we're going to stay with this, with the president, as he says goodbye to law enforcement officers there at PBIA, and he is heading for the plane right now for Air Force One. There he goes.
Heading up the steps, holding onto the railing as he goes. Heading into Air Force One, again, heading down to Miami International Airport for another campaign reception. And there he is, heading inside. And that'll be our last glimpse of him until he arrives in Miami.
Yes, and tonight, as we said, he'll be in Miami for that campaign reception, meeting with Democratic donors. You see a few of the media still out there. Those are not the ones traveling with him because they have to be on the plane unless they're allowing them to board in the back.
Yeah, it looks like they're heading up the steps that
Yeah.
are down in the back.
And we're going to continue to follow this as the Air Force One takes off bound for MIA in the next couple of minutes. And you can see on the left that shot. It really is epitomizes what is happening right now in the field for the presidency, because you've got Trump's plane in the background and you've got the presidential plane, Air Force One, right there.
A lot of people feel like this is a 2020 redo.
Yeah.
Because not only this is putting sports into the mix now, but we have another matchup, 49ers versus the Chiefs. So that was 2020 as well.
Yeah.
So now it's
Good
shaping
point.
up to be Trump versus Biden again in the 2020 general election in November. And like you said, that picture there just kind of seals it.
Sums it up, doesn't it?
Sums it up, yes.
But Nikki Haley can't be counted out just yet. She is making it a point. She says she is not stepping down just yet.
And she plans to stay in the race at least through the South Carolina primary. Of course, South Carolina is her home state. She was governor of South Carolina, and she did pull in another $1 million in donations after the New Hampshire primary. So she is staying in the fight. And even past the South Carolina primary,
She
which
says
is at
at least
the
through
end.
Super Tuesday on March 5th.
Right,
So
so-
she'll have to reevaluate after that. We're getting a glimpse of the pilots there in the cockpit. And they'll be taking off momentarily, it looks like, once they get everything secure and clear the tarmac.
Yeah, it doesn't take them very long to take off once they, finally everyone's strapped in with their seatbelts, everyone's all
Once the
settled.
president says, let's go,
Yeah,
they go.
You gotta listen to them.
They're ready to move, that's for sure.
And from his schedule, it says that he is set to arrive in Miami at 4 p.m. Of course, this schedule was printed before he had that delay in Washington, D.C., but it's just about 3:30 now. And Felicia, you said it's about a 40-minute flight to Miami. So it looks like he's keeping within at least 10 minutes of that previously printed schedule. So he's keeping things on time here.
Yeah, it's not, they'll make up some time for sure in the air. The weather's perfect. But if you think about it, he is running a little bit late, all things considered, because he arrived here late, as you said. He was expected closer to 1, correct?
He was expected
Or around
closer,
12.
yeah, to 12:15 is when we were expecting him initially, and then we kept checking to see if the plane had taken off. It didn't take off until 30 minutes after it was originally supposed to, so he got here a little bit closer to 1, just before 1 p.m.
And then they sat on that shot of the door, of the plane door, and you're waiting for the president to come out, and it's like, where are you, Mr. Biden?
I know, it took a while for him to come out, and then once he did come out, he did have that long conversation with Mayor Keith James and Palm Beach County Commissioner Maria Sachs. So
We need to get Mr. Keith James, Mayor Keith James,
Yeah.
on the phone and find out what they were talking about.
we need to know, because it seemed very interesting.
And they have obviously cleared the tarmac, or they're trying to there. There's
Looks like members of the Secret
Secret Service,
Service,
right.
perhaps, yes.
And they will clear out as soon as the plane starts to move.
I assume probably air traffic controllers are probably giving directions to some of the other commuter flights that are there at the airport, letting them know that Air Force One takes priority and that Air Force One needs to take off to get to Miami.
Absolutely. Well, the time is 3:31. You're watching WPBF 25 News live coverage of President Joe Biden's arrival at PBIA. We are waiting for President Biden plane, Air Force One, to depart PBIA as he is heading to Miami for another campaign event. He has spent the afternoon here in Palm Beach County, specifically up in the Jupiter area, at an event at the Pelican Club.
Yes, he was there, we assume, meeting with donors and other supporters. Of course, this is President Biden's first visit to South Florida since the 2022 midterm elections, where he was supporting gubernatorial candidate Charlie Crist and also Senate candidate Val Demings. And he has done quite a bit of fundraising over 2023, so this is contributing to that. Data shows that he raised $97 million in the fourth quarter of 2023. The Biden campaign, along with the Democratic Party, ended the year with $117 million. He has quite a bit of cash on hand. That is apparently the highest a Democratic candidate has had at this point of the election.
All right, we want to go back to our traffic anchor, Yasmin Julmus, as we wait for the president's plane to depart PBIA. And Yasmin, have they reopened I-95 southbound?
Yes, I-95 southbound between Indiantown Road and the airport has reopened. I'm now seeing more traffic flows, which is good news. There was certainly a delay. The town of Jupiter did report that the southbound lanes of I-95 would be closed between 2 and 3 p.m. However, as we've been reporting, there was a delay today, so about 30 minutes off schedule. It is now reopened. I'm still seeing a lot of delays, though, in northern Palm Beach County, particularly on Indiantown Road, heading westbound, approaching I-95. I'm seeing delays heading southbound on Military Trail, as I'm sure people have used that as an alternate option. Some delays on the Turnpike in Palm Beach Gardens, and that trend just keeps continuing, even locally in West Palm Beach, heading eastbound on Southern Boulevard. At last check, I saw speeds as slow as 6 miles per hour. This does not happen every day where the president is in town, and we are slightly approaching or going into rush hour traffic, but I do think now that I-95 southbound lanes have reopened, that 20-mile stretch between Indiantown Road and the airport, I do believe conditions will start to improve.
All right, that is good news. Thank you, Yasmin, for that update. Again, I-95 southbound lanes have been reopened, so all those backups we're seeing on the side streets because the on-ramps to I-95 were closed while the president was motorcade was on I-95 are back open, so hopefully traffic will be improving.
Yeah, and couldn't have come at a better time because, like you said, kids are getting out of school. We're about to get into rush hour traffic when people are getting off of work. And obviously, I-95, a major corridor, you do not want that to be tied up as people are starting to try to make their way back home.
Absolutely. Again, we are waiting for Air Force One as it prepares to depart for Miami. The president has another fundraising event in Miami tonight before he heads back to Washington this evening.
And we know that he is scheduled, I should say, to stay in Miami for just under 2 hours to speak with supporters there. We know a little bit about what he spoke with supporters here in Palm Beach County. He talked about everything from Roe versus Wade and the abortion issue to the state of the economy, gun violence, and taking a lot of shots at former President Donald Trump in the process. He fully believes that he and the Democratic Party can win the state of Florida in the 2024 general election. This, as we know, that there are more registered Republicans in the state than there are registered Democrats. So that is very interesting. And of course, South Florida is a fundraising hotspot for both Democrats and Republicans. It is a battleground state at the end of the day, even if there are, like I said, more registered Republicans than Democrats, but still a place that President Biden, Nikki Haley, former President Donald Trump certainly should be focusing their time.
And we know that Ambassador Nikki Haley will be here tomorrow. She's got a planned event on Palm Beach, a fundraising event, and we'll be bringing you coverage of her stop on the island. The New York Times is reporting that campaign managers for both Haley and Donald Trump also plan to attend events on Palm Beach, hosted by GOP donor group, the American Opportunity Alliance. So a lot happening this week in the political realm here in Palm Beach County. It is a hot spot.
It definitely is. And like we said, this is former President Donald Trump's home turf, his plane right there behind Air Force One.
And it appears they're waiting for somebody because they have
Yeah, it
not
looks
lifted
like
those stairs. So I don't
someone
know
else is,
who they're waiting for, but somebody didn't get the memo that they need to take off.
someone missed the motorcade.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know that former President Donald Trump, this is his home turf. His plane is right there behind Air Force One. Certainly an interesting picture and kind of maybe some foreshadowing to what we could see later on this year for the general election in November.
Again, a live look at Air Force One from Palm Beach International Airport with Donald Trump's plane in the background. We are waiting for Air Force One to depart to Miami. It should have happened by now, but it appears that they are waiting on someone or several people because we see those stairs are still down and Secret Service is still on the ground there on the tarmac.
Yeah, and since we were talking about former President Donald Trump, his plane is right there. Let's talk about some fundraising data for the Trump campaign. Q4 fundraising data not been released yet, as campaigns have until tomorrow to file that data. But we do know that the Trump campaign raised more than $45 million in the third quarter of 2023. And of course, former President Donald Trump not mincing any words when it comes to current President Joe Biden as well. He spoke in Nevada over the weekend. He blasted President Biden on the immigrant crisis and also things happening at the border. So definitely things heating up as we see both President Joe Biden, Nikki Haley, and we are going to see former President Donald Trump here for a campaign event as well.
Well, and you mentioned too, I mean, this won't be the last visit.
Yeah.
This is the first in what will probably be several visits to the Sunshine State before
Yes.
November.
Florida, of course, just a very important state. It's a battleground state. And we do have, even though there are more registered Republicans than Democrats, we still do have, it's very much split down the middle. It is a battleground state. But again, taking a live look here at Palm Beach International Airport, we are waiting for Air Force One to take off here. President Biden is in Palm Beach County, or he was in Palm Beach County for a campaign reception with his donors and supporters. He is heading down to Miami International Airport where he will do more of the same.
Okay, it appears that somebody is getting off the plane. It looks
Not exactly sure who that might be.
We're not sure who this person is, but he came off the back of the plane like where the media and guests go on the plane.
So maybe that's who they were waiting for. And yeah, it looks like the Secret Service just walked into the plane. They're taking the stairs up right now. So it looks like they are preparing for departure and they are going to be heading down to
The
Miami
stairs are going
momentarily.
up now.
Yes.
That took a lot. That took a while.
So who? Okay.
Okay, well, I'm hearing from my producer, because I was going to say that looked a lot like Joe Biden, but it could be that that was his brother, Frank Biden, for some reason, getting off the plane.
It looked like Hunter Biden too.
Yeah,
Strong
a
family
little older.
resemblance.
Yeah, so possibly his brother for some reason, wanting to stay down here in Palm Beach. So I'm sure we'll find out a little bit more information, but they weren't waiting on somebody to board the plane. They were actually waiting for somebody to get off the plane. Okay, we are going to wait to watch the Air Force One depart and take off to Miami, but we want to get another update from Yasmin Julmus because traffic, as you can imagine, with I-95 having been shut down for quite some time, traffic has been quite a nightmare. Yasmin?
Felicia, as I say, sometimes in the morning following an accident that's been cleared, the damage is already done. Taking a look at my maps right now, I am seeing some westbound slowdowns on Indiantown Road. A lot of congestion as you are approaching the highways in that area. Some northbound congestion in the Jupiter area on alternate A1A. And again, because this was a rolling motorcade, all of these roads have reopened because we are now awaiting the president to take off to Miami. But still, many, many delays.
You said the magic words.
Yes.
The plane is now moving, finally. After sitting there for several minutes, what seemed like an eternity, Air Force One is now moving on the tarmac, and it should just be a few more minutes before Air Force One is up in the air.
Taxiing down the runway here at Palm Beach International Airport, the president, of course, heading for a short flight to Miami for a campaign reception with some of his donors and supporters, hoping to drum up some more support ahead of the general election in November, where he is the incumbent, he is the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee.
Minus his brother, Frank Biden, who for some reason or another departed the plane, got off the plane and walked off on the tarmac just a few minutes ago. So we will be learning more about that in a few minutes. But they are all heading to Miami right now for a Democratic reception, a campaign reception down in Miami.
And of course, South Florida is a huge fundraising opportunity for candidates from both parties. This is a battleground state. We do have supporters of both parties here. Both parties have a stronghold here in Florida. So we, of course, are seeing President Joe Biden today. We are expecting candidate Nikki Haley to be here tomorrow. And then we are also expecting former President Donald Trump to host his own campaign reception on Palm Beach sometime this week as well. But there you see.
I believe his campaign manager is going to be doing that. I don't know if Donald Trump will actually be here. But he might. You know, Donald Trump loves to surprise people. He shows up at all sorts of events. His plane is here, so it's possible that he will be surprising people.
Yeah.
He loves to do that as well and surprise his followers and his donors.
Yes.
As we wait for Air Force One to depart from Palm Beach International Airport bound for MIA. It shouldn't take very long for them to arrive down there, but it will cause quite the headache for sure for drivers in Miami during the rush hour, as you mentioned.
I mean, on any normal day, the traffic in Miami it can be challenging to say the least. So as we saw here in Palm Beach County with the closures on the highways and the congestion on the side streets, you can probably expect more of the same in Miami. So if you maybe are heading down to Miami tonight, maybe you have family down there, you're grabbing a bite to eat for dinner, maybe consider doing it another day.
I would stay away because they're closing. They're doing the same in Miami as they would do, you know, especially along the Turnpike and near I-95. All of the areas close to the airport are going to be affected. For sure.
And President Biden, of course, is expected to be in Miami possibly until 8 o'clock tonight. That's what his schedule says. Of course, he is running a little bit behind. So it seems like for most of the evening here, you probably are going to be dealing with those delays and those traffic congestion in the Miami area as he makes his way around. We're not exactly sure where his campaign reception will be in Miami, but you can expect that pretty much anywhere is going to be affected.
And you can see they've got the airport to themselves at this point. The airport shut down for the president, and they are taxiing on the runway. Haven't quite picked up the speed they need to take off yet.
They should be taking off momentarily.
And of course, we will be bringing you WPBF 25 News at 4 in just 15 minutes. Our Tiffany Kenny and Shane Wright will be bringing you the day's top news headlines. And meteorologist Chris Martinez, Chief Meteorologist Chris Martinez, will have the day's weather.
And we'll have our co-anchor, Tom McDermott. He's going to be live in the field as well, starting at 4 o'clock. We have a team coverage, a slate of reporters who have been, Terry Parker has been along Southern Boulevard speaking with supporters of President Trump. We have Suji Nam, who is at the Pelican Club, which is where President Joe Biden was giving his remarks to his donors and supporters. And I will also be out there starting at 5. I'll be talking a little bit about Nikki Haley's visit tomorrow and what we can expect.
We get to do this all over again.
Yeah.
A busy week for Palm Beach County.
It's always busy in Florida around election
Certainly
time.
is. This is where we'll see them pick up as they get ready for takeoff.
Yeah, it seems like they made that turn. They'll be picking up speed now. Looks like they're speeding up here.
And there's Air Force One as it departs PBIA bound to
All right, and if you were joining our coverage just now, you just saw President Joe Biden taking off in Air Force One, heading down to Miami International Airport. He was here in Palm Beach County for a campaign reception in Jupiter, and now he is making his way down for more of the same in Miami.
And we will have complete coverage of the president's visit starting on WPBF 25 News at 4. We'll see you then. Have a great day.